What's up, you guys? It is John Flynn here, and thank you for joining the premiere episode of Unfiltered. Unfiltered will be the name of my podcast that will translate over from radio, where I was for 3 years, over to YouTube, etc. And so there are things I gotta get to, and let me just say that I was the host of Flynn for the Win at King's College's 88.5 WRKC for 3 years, and I did 90 episodes of the show for 3 years. That it was Monday afternoons at 5:30 in the afternoon, that if there was no station news that Monday, that it would move up to 5 o'clock. And so I was thinking of whether to do this last night or tonight, and I actually think it was a good idea to choose tonight because we have a lot to get to, so let's get to it. So the big news in sports today: free agent infielder Manny Machado signs a 10-year, $300 million deal with the San Diego Padres. That, as a free agent, it is the single largest free agent deal in terms of dollars, previously breaking the record Alex Rodriguez set when he signed his $275 million extension with the Yankees before the 2008 season. Baseball fans have been waiting for this type of news all winter long because with a stagnant market, with the top 4 free agents on the market, in my view, it's Bryce Harper, then Machado, then Craig Kimbrell, then Dallas Keuchel. And let me just say that there are a lot of people out there that are complaining about the years and the money, and the money doesn't seem to be an issue for some. That for some it's the years, but I can see where the San Diego Padres are going here. That you have 2 cornerstones in the infield set for the next 7 years. You signed Eric Kuzma last year. Obviously, he wasn't the player he was advertised to be last year, but he always has a year to a year which he can say he can adjust to Petco Park as compared to what he had at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City. But they have 2 stable pieces in place in Manny Machado and Eric Kuzma, both of them who have playoff experience. They even went head-to-head in the ALCS, while Hosmer was with Kansas City and Machado was with the Baltimore Orioles. So when we think of this, they have Machado, they have Hosmer, but because people have been clamoring, oh, what are the San Diego Padres doing? Well, they have a farm system which is considered to be the best in all of baseball, and they have 2 legitimate prospects that can take up the rest of the infield. That you'll have Fernando Tatis Jr. come up with the organization in a couple of years, unless the team decides to trade him. And then you have Luis Urias, that can play second base, and he might be able to come up at some point this year. Obviously, they have a catcher, Francisco Mejia, who they got in the Brad Hand trade last July. And they have an interesting outfield. I really like Hunter Renfroe as a hitter. I think his defensive metrics need to improve if he wants to solidify himself as an everyday player. But they have 9 consensus top 100 prospects in their farm system, let alone Tatis Jr., Urias, and Mejia. That they have 6 pitchers in the top 100 that you can. And you can look at Kyle Allen and Mackenzie Gore, as an option. So I think the San Diego Padres are going to be a force to be reckoned with in a a couple of years that again that with the National League the way it is now, with 9 teams legitimately putting playoff rosters together with the moves they made this offseason. But I think this isn't about 2019. I think this is about the start of the 2020s, that they have an all-world talent. That, yes, the attitude issues are there. I get that. There's no question about it. But I think moving to a smaller market, I think it's going to benefit him greatly. That the media presence isn't there as much in San Diego as there is in LA or Baltimore, for that matter. And the team is going to improve. They're already better than they were 12 hours ago when the news wasn't announced yet. But I think but this signing wasn't just about 2019, where I think the Padres can win 75 to 80 games, which I think is pretty good considering the competition they're going to have to face this year. But when you look down the road, when these guys graduate from the farm system and make contributions to the big league level, they already have multiple well-established stars in place that can help mentor the guys into getting them focused into the drive toward a championship. So the bottom line, Machado to the Padres. I think Bryce Harper is going to head out soon. That I think Bryce Harper is actually going to sign a deal which is going to be more than that. It's going to be bigger than Giancarlo Stanton's deal, which was $325 million. I projected 10 years, $330 million. I think that's a good. I'm feeling good about that bet right now. On to the NBA All-Star Game now, as Team LeBron defeated Team Giannis Antetokounmpo 178 to 164 for the All-Star Game. That Kevin Durant was named the game MVP for the second time in his career. He had 31 points and 7 rebounds in a game in which basically the household names beat the skilled players. That Team Giannis emphasized skills, obviously, with when you have a guy like Steph Curry, and then LeBron had the household names in there like James Harden and Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson, among others. That I think Klay Thompson would fall more into Giannis's category than LeBron's. But once again, the All-Star Game lacked defense. That I know people are the players playing to protect themselves. Like, whatever. That and also to note that Team LeBron at one point in the second half was down by like 15 to 20 points, and they literally blew the doors on Team Giannis in the last quarter and a half of the game. But the All-Star Game lacked defense. And once again, I know that the players want to protect themselves, but I want to see like more entertainment. That I want to see like more some more competitive action take place. And yes, this was the NBA's chance to showcase the All-Stars going against each other. But one of my favorite moments of the game was when Klay Thompson fouled Steph Curry in the fourth quarter on a 3-point attempt, and Curry made it. And what I was looking for is that the teams have players from their own teammates going head to head against each other, and say, why not play against each other? Good luck. But seriously, the All-Star game could be better if there was more emphasis on defense, and I think LeBron is really trying to go after the free agents at the end of the year that were on his team, like Kevin Durant especially, that and to try to persuade them to join the Los Angeles Lakers instead of potentially going to a team like the Knicks or something like that. Colin Kaepernick now, moving over to NFL news. Colin Kaepernick reaches a settlement with the NFL based on his accusations of accusing the owners of colluding against him in terms of not signing with teams because the national anthem controversy would be a big factor that the team would get too much distraction out of the way. He reportedly get paid about $60 to $80 million in NFL settlement cases. That's what I saw. But all it is to me is that he gets money from this, money from the NFL, which actually leans toward the other way. Oh, good. Oh, good. But I predict he will still not be able to sign with the team because of those of the national anthem issues. That it's great for Kaepernick. He gets his money. That Kaepernick gets what he was looking for, but not as a quarterback. In just $60 to $80 million, pays for 3 to 4 years as a starting quarterback in the NFL, which every quarterback now is getting paid $20 million a year, which is great, but not what they were hoping for. Meanwhile, the NCAA basketball season continues to heat up with the run to the NCAA tournaments. And I want to look at a few teams particularly this week, and I want to look at the tale of two games for the University of Kentucky Wildcats that they lose at home to LSU. And then they come back and win by 17 points over Tennessee, the number one team in the country last week on Saturday night. And Kentucky usually has a tendency to snitch a little bit better as the season goes on, and Kentucky finally showed to the nation why they were one of the top teams in the country before the season began, and P.J. Washington balling, that ability to pass, ability to penetrate across the arc, that Tennessee had no chance against Kentucky. Well, and they had no chance. They had none. The number one team in the country had no chance against those guys. You have to give John Calipari credit. You have to give the coaching staff a lot of credit that the team wanted to win. They're hungry to win. They're hungry to bring home a national title back to Lexington. Good for them. Meanwhile, Tennessee, with their loss to Kentucky, they drop all the way to 5th in the national rankings. So it's Duke number 1, it's Gonzaga number 2, Virginia at 3. The Kentucky moved up to 4, even though they lost at home under John Calipari, which is a rarity. But give credit to LSU, who actually plays Tennessee. They and the Volunteers go head to head on Saturday. And then Tennessee at number 5. And I mean, Tennessee, I think, is a team that can go deep in the NCAAs. I think they could be Final Four potential. That because their team is composedly based of juniors and seniors. I think they did a great job retaining them and having them play as a team. That's part of the reason why they've only lost 2 games this year. But albeit to top 5 teams in Kansas, who was number 2 when they lost to them early in the season, and then Kentucky at number 5 on Saturday. But the big upset of the weekend was the St. John's Red Storm taking down the defending champion Villanova Wildcats on Sunday night at Madison Square Garden. And L.J. Figueroa was fantastic. He scored more than 20 points that he contributed on defense. He contributed with getting baskets. And he contributed to nearly half of the points that St. John's scored on Sunday night. But this type of win against this type of team, because again, St. John's already has the 2 wins against Marquette in the Big East, and now they have a top 25 win against a heated rival that they can pound on their resume in terms of getting to the NCAA tournament. That after their win against Villanova, I think it's a good bet that they will be in the NCAAs, but it still looks to me that they'll probably be a 9 seed or an 8 seed in the NCAAs. But I think given what the fans expected before the season, it doesn't seem particularly pleasant, especially if they want a pleasant situation, if they want to go further. So I think what the goal for the next. So what is it? They have five games left against in the regular season schedule. That I know they still have to go to Providence. They still have to play Xavier twice before the NCAA tournament starts. The Big East tournament starts. But I think given that the schedule is a bit easy for the Red Storm, that I think all they need to do is figure out ways to get down with the fundamentals, because especially on defense, because I went to a St. John's game earlier in the season, and their defense wasn't fantastic. It wasn't fantastic, but it could get better. I see talent. I see potential in improving their defense. They held the national champions to just 65 points. Work on fundamentals in practice. Work on fundamentals in games against teams you should be able to beat, like Providence and Xavier and others. Work on that. Moving on now to the Blue Devils of Duke. Our guys, Coach Krzyzewski, down by 23 in the second half on Tuesday night. Take down Louisville, number 15 in the country. And was it so good to see Duke, the way they played, at a championship level. That's the expectation in Krzyzewskiville. And when you're down by 23, you don't expect to win. But the Blue Devils pulled it off. The Blue Devils were able to say, look, you can put us in a situation, but if you don't take us seriously for 40 minutes and in a game, that you're probably not going to win against us, let alone be down by 23. And then R.J. Barrett comes down on Saturday and scores a triple-double. 20 points, 10, and double digits in rebounds and assists. This team is not just about Zion Williamson, and obviously he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft come June. But there's a reason Duke was so hyped up before the season began. Not just Zion Williamson. Although Williamson is probably going to be a small forward when he gets to the NBA, but that's not the point. The point is, they have stars like Williamson, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, all who can hurt you in so many different ways, from inside, outside, on defense, everything. Duke's got North Carolina tomorrow. We're going to get to that game in a little bit. Back to the NBA now. Can the Los Angeles Lakers make the postseason this year? I say that they can if LeBron's supporting cast shows up and handles the competition well. They can make the playoffs because they have LeBron James, and outside of LeBron's rookie season, he's never had a season where it ended before the postseason began. But I think these hopes come down to 3 players. And entering this week's action, the Lakers are 3 games behind, I believe, in the second wild card, or in the 8th position in the Western Conference. And look, we did not expect the Lakers to win the West this year. That expect LeBron to go to the finals, which he did for the last 8 years, albeit all in the Eastern Conference. But we wanted to see what type of Lakers team LeBron would employ his first time around. Obviously, the Lakers are going to get better, as they'll probably go after free agents and sign the premier free agents, and they'll probably see what Kevin Durant wants to do, and others, if they actually want to go after Anthony Davis in a couple years from now. But their hopes this year come down to 3 players. Number 1, Kyle Kuzma. I saw Kyle Kuzma in the All-Star Futures game on Friday night. He scored 35 points. Great. Apply the action. Apply minutes into their games, and continue to build off what's been a promising first half for him. Part of the Lakers' success this year was part of Kyle Kuzma's development. Number 2, Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's just 21 years old. Yes, he is only 21. And he has steadily improved this season, that he's gotten better and better as the year has gone on. But he's only 21 years old. We know he's going to get better. Make no mistake about it, he's going to get better. Number 3, Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball needs to have, and all he has to do is tell his daddy to say bye-bye to chit-chat and gobbledygook and gossip and go play the game of basketball. There was a reason Lonzo Ball was the number 2 overall pick in the 2017 draft to begin with. I think Lonzo Ball needs to shoot the ball better. The thing I liked about Lonzo Ball in UCLA, that he didn't have to take the shots, that he had to do the fundamentals. But if he isn't shooting, it ain't no matter what happens with the Lakers. If Kuzma if Kuzma and Ingram continue their developments, if Lonzo Ball puts the distraction aside and put the drive in toward a postseason hunt, I think that's good news for LeBron James. That at this point, given with the Lakers' schedule and of course the Lakers have to start with the Houston Rockets and James Harden and company on Thursday night. I think the Lakers will make the playoffs as that 8th seed if these things happen. And as long as they all stay healthy, of course, because the Lakers were a top 5 team in the West with when LeBron was healthy. Now that LeBron's had the All-Star break, which really wasn't even a break for him because he was a captain of one of the teams that faced off on Sunday night. But if LeBron James can stay healthy and all that, I think the Lakers should be pretty good. Jacob deGrom came out with comments about the future of his team over the weekend, and with the Mets obviously in win now mode, should absolutely have the urge to get a Jacob deGrom extension done before opening day. It's only 37 days between now and opening day. But Brody Van Wegenen has had a fantastic offseason, let alone signing guys like Wilson Ramos, Jed Lowry, and Jerry Familia in the offseason, and trading for Edwin Diaz and Robbie Cano. But this is obviously, we know the window for winning is going to be open for 2 years, at least, because many of these guys are under contract, hoping to win both this year and next year. But Jacob deGrom said it might be the 4th, 5th best player in baseball, that let alone position players. I think he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. He had a 1.70 ERA last season. He took his game to different levels in each of his first 5 years. He's pitched under duress a lot, and he still put those fantastic numbers up. Having said that, DeGrom is 30 years old now, and by the time his contract goes off next year, he'll be 32. So I think what the Mets should put on the table is to find a way to get DeGrom a 5-year extension worth, let's say, $30 million per year. Because I think that's what Clayton Kershaw is making with the Dodgers. That will take him to age 37. I think Jacob DeGrom needs to talk with owners, have his agents talk with Brody Van Wegenen, and he's just that important to the Mets. Speaking of the Mets, the New York Mets competes in the National League East, and there are 4 teams that can legitimately win the National League East this year. The Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, the Nationals, and all of that. Sorry, Marlins fans, we're discounting you because the Marlins don't have anybody good, but that's not the point of this topic. But the point is that the Mets obviously improving in a lot of areas of deficiency in infield depth, in bullpen depth, in getting more definites rather than ifs. You have the Braves with raw talents like Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies. You have an elite talent in Freddie Freeman. You bring back Nick Markakis. But I think the Braves have the most oomph in their lineup. I think because you have two guys who have recently been called up. But looking along the lines, you look at what the Nationals did in getting Patrick Corbin and Anibal Sanchez. You look at what the Phillies did trading for JT Realmuto, which everyone thought he was going to be out of it because they were going to be out of it because Derek Jeter was overplaying his hand in December when he was trying to force the Mets to trade for Realmuto while giving Syndergaard over to the Yankees. But right now, if I was to pick a team that would win the NL East, looking at these rosters, I think the Nats have the fewest holes, but I think the Mets have more depth in the bullpen and a little bit of competitiveness in the starting rotation and in the lineup to compare to that of the Nationals. So right now, if I was to say who I think is going to win the NL East, and again, I'm trying not to be biased here because I didn't know the Mets were going to have this good of an offseason. I didn't know they were going to get Edwin Diaz, Cano, Ramos, Familia, and others. But right now, I think the Mets, not by a lot, are the team to beat in the National League East. With the free agent saga continuing, Major League Baseball is maybe fearing a lockdown or by the end of their next collective bargaining agreement with their free agent stagnancy over the last 2 off seasons, that it took until February for some of its best players to sign contracts. That happened after February 15th last year with Eric Hosmer and JD Martinez, who were the top 2 free agents last offseason. And it happened again this year that on my list of the 4 top free agents, they were Manny Machado, who has already signed, Bryce Harper, Craig Kimbrell, and Dallas Keuchel. None of whom which have signed yet. So, and since the players agreed to this, since the owners and the players agreed to this, that's what it is. Until 2021, that's when the collective bargaining agreement goes up. So, but if things continue the way they are, where the biggest free agent contract handed out in a given offseason is $144 million or somewhere around $20 million a year. When you factor in inflation, when you factor in taxes that go into these contracts by state laws. I think this might be a time where I think Major League Baseball needs to sit back and think about what type of deal that they want to give. That I'm certainly down for baseball doing some sort of salary cap with what the NFL and the NBA does. I'm certainly more inclined to seeing what the players are thinking instead of what the owners are thinking, because I think the NBA has thrived over the last couple of years because of letting the players dictate their place, letting the players use their roles as players and as stars to promote platforms. I think Major League Baseball might have lost a step a little bit. I think today with Machado signing. I think it was a good day for the Major League Baseball Players Union. So because I think they'll have a fair share come 2021. But will baseball succumb to this day and age where fans need to interact more, or fans have the urge to interact more with with the players? And now with Manny Machado gone, it just leaves Bryce Harper. So that Bryce Harper, everyone thought a few years ago was going to be the crown jewel of this offseason. And everyone's now talking about Machado because he signed first. And now we're back to Harper. Is it going to be the Phillies? Is it going to be the White Sox? Something tells me that after the Phillies and White Sox lost out on Machado, because reportedly, if it was true, they might have been the first choice on either direction because of Machado's premium talents offensively and defensively, and Harper isn't as fundamentally sound defensively at his position in the outfield as Machado is at third base or shortstop, because third base is probably going to be where Machado winds up when Fernando Tatis Jr. gets called up in a couple of years. But I think today was also a good day for Bryce Harper, because now that $300 million was the standard for Machado to sign, I think teams that are trying to compete this year should have the urge to sign Bryce Harper. I think he's going to get more than that, like I said earlier. But will it be the Phillies? Will it be the White Sox? I think in the end, whoever signs him will overpay. Antonio Brown and the Pittsburgh Steelers formally announced that they will be working out a trade this offseason. Where he goes, we don't know for sure. But there are two teams that have been the biggest names in terms of rumors: the New York Jets and the San Francisco 49ers. I think when you look at these two teams, I think the 49ers are a perfect fit for Antonio Brown. That Antonio Brown, the 49ers, top wide had the surprise development of George Kittle as one of the top tight ends in the NFL this year, as he had over 1,300 yards that he compared to the likes of Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz and Rob Gronkowski among tight ends. But look, George Kittle had nearly 1,400 yards receiving. Do you know who the second best receiver in terms of yardage was this year? It was Kendrick Bourne, who had 487. Antonio Brown will instantly make this young core of wide receivers in Dante Pettis and Kendrick Bourne a lot better. So that you'll probably get a full year of Jimmy Garoppolo, but let's face it, the 49ers were not the same team without Jimmy Garoppolo as they were with Jimmy G. So Antonio Brown, that they're looking for a change of scenery. That he said from the beginning that he loves the 49ers. He loves what they offer on the table. I think the 49ers will be a great fit. And the other team that's been rumored was the Jets. The Jets have an interesting scenario here because unlike the 49ers, and it comes down to the quarterbacks. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo is more polished. That we saw him a little. We saw the type of potential he had when he was with the Patriots during Tom Brady's Deflategate suspension. But this is where I think it might go wrong for the Jets. That Sam Darnold, coming off his rookie year, that he was hailed as the best quarterback in last year's draft class, which produced 5 first-round picks, and the Jets might not want to hear the loud mouth of Antonio Brown because for some reason that the Jets get more media attention in New York City than the Giants do because the Giants have more stability at quarterback with Eli Manning, but that's going to probably change come this off season, whether it's by trade or who not. But I think if Antonio Brown winds up with the Jets, that he'll still be in the AFC. The Jets and Steelers go head to head this year at the Meadowlands. And I think when you're trying to have a quarterback who obviously still has some flaws that he picked up, that he carried over from Southern Cal, that I don't think Antonio Brown is the most precise fit to fill that wide receiver void. Granted, he's 30 years old. That you can say he's the best, maybe the best wide receiver in the entire NFL, given given what he offers to the table. But what I think is that the Jets don't want to hear anything about Antonio Brown. But who is to blame for this mess that is the Pittsburgh Steelers? And I said this on Flynn for the Win a lot this past season. But I think the management really, first of all, I thought the management really screwed up on Le'Veon Bell. That I think Le'Veon Bell deserved more credit than the Steelers gave him credit for before last offseason began. Le'Veon held out because the Steelers wouldn't give him a contract, unfortunately, and I think Le'Veon's one of the most exciting players in the NFL. That when he gets the ball, that he is about as patient as anybody. That he knows the mind games that other teams want to play on him, and he's not fazed by that. So, but in the idea that Ben Roethlisberger would, according to reports, that would bash players and not be the player or the person he is in the locker room, I just think that's nonsense. Ben Roethlisberger has 2 championships, albeit none of them in the last 10 years. But I think the Steelers have a lot of hard decisions to make, and if the Steelers are unable to make difficult decisions during the offseason, I think this will set back their franchise for years. The NFL offseason is set to begin in about 3 weeks, so let's look at teams that I think that can control the NFL offseason. And I have 2 teams in mind: the Philadelphia Eagles and the Indianapolis Colts. So why those 2 teams? I'm going to start with the Eagles. Why you might say the Eagles if they're already probably going to be over the salary cap. 2 words: Nick Foles. So what do the Eagles want to do with Nick Foles this offseason? Is that do they want to franchise tag him for $20 million and then try to trade him? Because I don't know what exactly are the rules for franchise tagging and trade, but if the Eagles are able to be to trade Nick Foles, not only will they get a couple of draft picks that they can use later on, but they've already set an establishment as to as to who will be the quarterback for the Eagles in the future. And the Philadelphia Eagles used number 2 overall pick last year to get Carson Wentz anyway. So why not wait? So why waste Carson Wentz when you can get players that can help in the future? Given that the Eagles made the playoffs to the divisional round, they were up 14-0 on the New Orleans Saints in the divisional round. Obviously, they lost 20-14. Had Alshon Jeffrey, that they probably would have won had Alshon Jeffrey not tipped the pass that was intercepted by Marshawn Lattimore. But they have pieces in place that got them to a championship in 2017 that can contribute in 2019. Obviously, the Eagles cutting ties with Ronald Darby isn't particularly pleasant. If I was the Eagles and looking at the secondary, which really got burned this year with injuries, that it was a brutal year. That at one point their top 5 secondary players, their top 5 corners, they were all either inactive or hurt. And so if the Eagles stay healthy, I think that not only will they be the team to beat in the NFC East, I think they'll be a contender to go back to the Super Bowl and maybe win a second title in 3 years. But I think the other team that I think could control the offseason is the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have a lot of salary cap room, and this isn't even after an 11-game winning streak which carried over into the playoffs. They were 11-5 last year. They won a playoff game on enemy turf in Houston, and before they got blitzed by Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City in the divisional round. But I think what the Colts can take away from that Kansas City game is that they now know what positions to go after in the offseason. That obviously we knew their offensive line was great. They have Andrew Luck, who the number 1 overall pick a few years ago in the draft. So, but I still think that the Colts guys should try to be aggressive on the defensive line because their defensive line could not get to Patrick Mahomes at all in Kansas City on divisional Saturday. So I think if the Cowboys can't get a deal done with DeMarcus Lawrence, I think the Colts should be the front runners to land him. If in the secondary, if the Giants don't want to extend Landon Collins, they should go after him. I think having the defense, so the way they played down the stretch, and you add guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and Landon Collins, who are both game changers, I think that would significantly lift the team up, and probably make them the team to beat in the division if they're able to get notable names into those positions. I'd also wonder if the Colts might be a sneaky team for Antonio Brown, that they already have the star in T.Y. Hilton. So, but it doesn't appear to me that the Colts have much, because Andrew Luck needs someone needs other people good to throw to. So why not trade Antonio Brown? That the Colts have to have the cap room. So I think they should go ahead and do it. So I think the Eagles and the Colts are 2 good bets to control the NFL offseason. Moving on to my New York Islanders, hockey's most pleasant surprise in 2019. And the defense last year was one of the worst in the NHL. Now they're the best. And who would have thought that Barry Trotz would be the man that would change everything with the Islanders? That I knew Barry Trotz was a fantastic coach. He just won the Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals, their first title in franchise history. But did I expect Robin Lehner and Thomas Greiss to be the sport's two best goaltenders in terms of goals against or save percentage? I didn't see that. I didn't see a scenario in which Robin Lehner would be able to overcome all of his problems from his previous years and seemingly resurrect his career into being one of the top goaltenders in the world once again. And the Islanders certainly have a lot to do with that. Their coaching has been tremendous. They've been getting contributions from Matthew Barzal. You look at Beauvillier. So you look at the defense, which has been very good. You look at the fourth line, headlined by Casey Cizikas. They've been outstanding all year, and the Islanders having a 5-point lead over the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Metropolitan Division, which is seemingly the most competitive division maybe the most competitive division in all of North American sports. We'll see what the NL East in baseball has to do this year. But you have the Capitals, you have the Penguins, you have the Blue Jackets, you have you have the Carolina Hurricanes. I think the Islanders have exceeded all expectations. That they struggled to crack 75 points last year. They're already ahead of their pace last year. And the Islanders are in a position where not only will they get a home playoff series, assuming they'll win the division, and perhaps multiple home playoff series because of being the division winners. I think the Islanders have set themselves up to be really good in the future. So that the Islanders, everyone thought the Islanders would be near the bottom of the NHL without John Tavares, who is now with the Toronto Maple Leafs and balling out there. So, but the Islanders are a fascinating story, and especially since they play some games at the Nassau Coliseum. The first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, assuming the Islanders get there, the Isles' home playoff games are going to be there. They're going to be at the Coliseum. Who would have thought this 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago, that they would play games at the Coliseum before their move to Belmont Park in a couple of years? Who would have thought? Props to Denny Hamlin on winning the Daytona 500 on Sunday night in light of multiple collisions in the last 15 to 20 laps of the race, which took out a lot of the competition. This is Denny Hamlin's second Daytona 500. It's nice for him to see him snap a long skid, which he hadn't won a race in the regular cup in a year and a half. But props to him. He overcame the elements, like all race drivers do, and win the Daytona 500. UNC and Duke go head-to-head in the first of at least two head-to-head meetings this season tomorrow night. Duke coming off their wins over Louisville on Tuesday, and R.J. Barrett coming off his triple-double. I bet fans are already having the Krzyzewskiville Blues going on as college basketball's greatest rivalry go off against tomorrow. But this is why I think Duke is going to successfully defend home court tomorrow night. Number one, says the Tar Heels haven't seen Zion Williamson yet. They haven't seen the star-studded cast yet. And number two, that with Duke's ability to penetrate like we haven't seen that. And that with respect that Roy Williams has given to Zion Williamson, that he hasn't seen a player like him in a while. I think this is another chance for Duke to once again shine on the national stage against their biggest rival on a big stage like the Cameron Indoor Arena. And I think Duke will take this game, I'm going to say 84-77. I think it's going to be a 7-point game. I think the free throws at the end will pull Duke away at the end. But I think both teams are in great situations right now. I think the rivalry is exactly where it needs to be. Only this time with star power, that household names taking a part of this rivalry. So, and some final notes that Marcus Stroman talked to the media over the weekend about him being disappointed about his extension talks, and I want to read a quote from what he said the other day. So he said, "I want to play here, given the Toronto Blue Jays, where he's a starting pitcher. I've been wanting to play here for a long time. I've been waiting to sign a long-term deal. I've been offered nothing. There's no one that embodies the city of Toronto more than me. And you're not going to find guys who want to come in and embody the city of Toronto because it's just not natural. And I've taken a liking to that myself. And that's been organic and natural. It's not something I've had to do. That's something I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be here. I wanted to pitch in the American League East. I wanted to pitch against the Yankees. I wanted to pitch against the Red Sox. People shy away from that. People go and hide in other leagues. I'm here. I don't care who's in the box. I'll face everybody. I couldn't care less. I think that's the type of mantra and the type of confidence the city of Toronto needs." End quote. No. No. There's no one that embodies the city of Toronto more than me, according to Marcus Stroman. No. And I'll tell you why. The city of Toronto is one of the big sports towns in Canada. They have the Toronto Raptors. They have Kyle Lowry, and they have Kawhi Leonard. All-Stars! One of the best records in the East. They just traded for Marcus Gasol. They look really good. The Raptors might be in the Eastern Conference Finals this season. The Toronto Maple Leafs. They have Austin Matthews and John Tavares. John Tavares ditched the Islanders to join the Toronto Maple Leafs because that was the team John Tavares grew up with. The team John Tavares wanted to play for his entire life. He wants to see the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup this year. This is the Raptors' best chance in 50 years to do that. And you're telling me that Marcus Stroman is the one that embodies the city of Toronto the most? Amateur hour. Shoutouts before we close the door. Doc Emmerich called his 1,000th career NHL game on Sunday when the Rangers lost to the Penguins 6-5. Doc Emmerich, the best in the business. No one does the craft of calling ice hockey games better than he does. Well deserved. The Penguins gave him a special honor during the. I think it was before the game. I was not too sure because I didn't go watch the game. But Doc Emmerich, well respected, best in the business. He knows how to make hockey exciting. Congratulations to Doc Emmerich. Many more calls to come. And finally, Bruce Bochy, the San Francisco Giants manager that weathered the elements of Barry Bonds to win 3 world championships in 5 years, will retire at the end of the year. I think when you look at teams and managers that have won 3 championships and with the amount of games he's won, everyone in Bruce Bochy's class has made it to the Hall of Fame. And make no mistake about this one, Bruce Bochy is a sure bet Hall of Famer. I think it's well deserved. It's like he took the Padres to the World Series in 1998, only to be swept by the New York Yankees. And Bruce Bochy is going to be one of those players, one of those people in baseball that knows how to do things. This will obviously signal the end of an era in San Francisco in terms of management. Brian Saban left last year, and now the architect of the Giants dynasty, and now the sport will say goodbye to Bruce Bochy at the end of the year. Also, speaking of end of the year, CC Sabathia announced he will retire at the end of the year as well. And CC, of course, he came up with the Indians, got traded to the Brewers, made that tremendous postseason push to push the Brewers to the wild card in 2008. Then goes to the Yankees, wins the 2009 championship, and is 14 strikeouts away from joining the elite 3,000 strikeout club. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Congrats to him on his retirement, as to Bruce Bochy. And I think this is going to do it here on this very first edition of Unfiltered. Unfiltered is the name of the show that if you listen to my radio show, Flynn for the Win, on King's College's 88.5 WRKC radio over 3 years, you know I'm fair. You know I want to spread the pot around. With different sports, unlike some of the mainstream sports, mainstream channels that gear towards football and basketball more. That I want to spread the pot more a little. That I want to be fair, and I want to do something that I find meaningful, and I look forward to a lot in the future. So. Thank you for watching. I am John Flynn. The normal times for this will be on Mondays. I recorded this tonight. I should have might want to do Mondays from here on, because that was when I recorded one of the days of the week where I aired my radio show. So until then, be safe, everybody, and for those of you that are going to weather the winter storm tomorrow, be safe. Don't do any unnecessary travel, and I'll be back on the tube sometime, so take care and so long.